they're kind of similar to Bobo Padapoo in that way. Their lows get pretty low, but their highs are incredibly high.
Well, do Zero Tenacity prioritize taking the Loki away, as Gonski was an absolute standout with that strategist, to the point that Low9 would actually save the Loki over a Vanguard, as Zero Tenacity actually prioritized the Magneto. Right now, having the ability for the first save being on that attacker side, they're going to be able to secure the Emma Frost before Low9 get the ability to ban something else out, and then they can save. So if they want a one-sided Loki, they absolutely can gravitate towards it. And since we're seeing the Asgardian already being teased on that ban selection, it feels like that's the direction we're headed.
Yeah, and the thing about Low9 is they're not too fussed about saving the Emma. Because Saintomoto is an incredibly good cap player, it kind of forces a later cap ban for Zero Tenacity to make Saintomoto go elsewhere, but Wolf is incredibly versatile. Yeah, they're messing with me. I ain't falling for the bait. I ain't falling for the bait, guys. Low9, let's get a real pick over here.
What are you talking about? They've got that Will of Galactic magic skin. That makes them viable, right?
True. And they're actually going to protect the Emma here. Maybe we see a pivot from Saintomoto, which would be interesting considering just how effective the cap has been on Hell's Heaven from every team so far.
I feel as well like Saintomoto might not want to be running the Captain America into the Emma Frost. The Zero Tenacity made sure to secure, as we're now going to see Jerky's Psylocke be prioritized as a ban. Interesting that Smash Nez's Torch has so far been able to make it through, as that has been a high priority to remove from teams that have run against Zero Tenacity in the past. So it looks like it's actually going to be a mirrored Punisher ban coming through from both of the teams.
Yep, unsurprising given how threatening both Knuten and Crisis are on that hero. First Protect now going to come through from Low9. This is going to give us some real insight into what they have designed on their side, and it is going to be Gonski's Loki, I imagine. We anticipated maybe it would be an early Protect for the Loki. Was not punished by Zero Tenacity, which they were a little bit more worried about the combination of maybe the cap and the Psylocke together, and didn't want to invest the ban on the cap itself.
There goes the Torch, so Zero Tenacity might be able to secure Smash Nez getting one-sided Human Torch, but no! Luna Snow is going to be taken out instead for the side of Low9. Now they're going to be able to protect the Torch, however, as if they do get target banned out of either the Luna Snow, they can still fall back onto the Invisible Woman or the Cloak and Dagger, or vice versa. As Low9 have a little bit of a question to ask themselves, and I actually really like this. If you remove the Mantis, because we've seen teams go for something akin to ResComp, where they actually put in the Human Torch over the Star-Lord, because teams have sort of identified now that ResComp doesn't have all that much damage outside the ultimate cycles if the Atom and the Star-Lord don't get the in when Magneto's taken out, and you don't get your Blaster Barrage with your Bulwark Bubbles coming on through. So taking out the Mantis removes the potential of both the ResComp, but also means that if you try and pocket something like an Ultron, Ultron's going to find far less value when you have a Soul Resurgence to pair up with the Rage.
Yeah, that extra movement speed can be so good for the Ultron as well with the Soul Resurgence. Just allowing it to wrap around corners where people are looking to take cover and then find them in a less evasive area, let's say. Hell's Heaven, once again, is going to be our opening matchup right here. Zero Tenacity and Low9 are facing down the barrel. Only one can survive, but there's still all the chance in the world to make it to China.
I believe I saw Crisis as well just before we headed into map overview. Go over towards that Hela, which is going to be lending extra support coming on through for Gonski's Loki, so that if he falls prematurely, Crisis getting a pick will be able to bring him back up immediately, and that does not have a cooldown, and we know that Crisis is able to come on through and hit those shots, and that Hela can definitely be a threat to the Flyers coming on through if you win the first fight. For both of these teams, it is so crucial that they win the first fight so that their duelists have the room to breathe.
That's why Zero Tenacity are already investing the portal here to try and get that advanced positioning. Still Jerky is not going to be playing too far afield here on the Star-Lord just yet, playing more of a frontline duelist role, just laying down the poke and the damage to try and open things up for Crisis. Remember that Soul Drainer in the back pocket. Oasis and Winnie being able to play together means the Guardian Shield can benefit them both, as well as heal them up. Wolf has already fallen down. Must have been some suppression onto the Low9 strategist to allow them to fall through the cracks. Now Saintomoto is feeling very isolated. Sure, the Aegis being brought up there by Ducky as well to block off the primary fire healing from the strategists.
Yeah, Knuten just getting to play around map geography perfectly. Also splitting on the angle from Smashness so that Crisis can only see one flyer at a time. So it does look like we have a little bit of a pause coming on through. But that allows us to sort of really look at how these compositions are going to interact, because Hela takes a lot of resources to make work, right? You either play her on an off angle with a perma pocket of one of your strategists, or you play her in the stack of your team. If you play her with the stack, you lose the space of an off angle pressure. If you play her on an off angle, yeah, you've got another direction that you can send damage through, but you've also now got a vulnerability which is going to bleed resources away from your front line. So there's give and take for both playstyles with her.
Yeah. And are you going to want to invest something like the Snowflake when usually that's going to be going on to the hypermobile Star-Lord, who's a little bit mechanically harder to heal and is often going to be in those little nooks and crannies away from the LOS? One of the interactions we saw in that first fight as well was the use of Emma's Aegis shield to block off healing coming the way of the Vanguards that were on point for low 9. And that can really be troublesome for a Cloak and Dagger in particular, who have a very meager damage output with the Light Force daggers. So you can't break through that Aegis at all. You've got to do a full reposition.
Yeah, you can somewhat finesse the situation, though, with the Cloak and Dagger's primary actually being able to bounce. So if you find a wall, then you can actually bounce the dagger into the player from behind the shield regardless. Though it can be particularly tricky on this map, though, because the map, the changes, right? Sometimes the point is vertical and sometimes it starts descending a little bit further, and that verticality can definitely interfere with the LOS that is open to some of those strategists, forcing them into some really rough positions where they have to hard swing out away from those corners, which would normally provide them cover from all of the damage that would be sent their way otherwise.
Now we're just going to figure out who's been calling for a pause. I believe we did have a couple of technical issues from Low 9 yesterday when we were playing Bin into T'Challa. Luckily, we've got the pause a little bit earlier this time, so all's fair in love and war, and you do not want to be in a position where your tournament life is on the line for a little bit of a technicality. So we'll give them time to sort everything out. In the meantime, you're trapped in the Hydra-based podcast with two Brits. And there we go. We are back in the game, baby.
Yeah, it's all business now as Knuten gets to play on all of these different off angles. Saint Moto is actually going to be going over towards the Captain America so they can try and put pressure on that backline and provide Crisis a little bit more room to be able to breathe without being instantly focused down in these retake situations. However, that Captain America does have to contest with Ducky and the Carbon Crush that will be sent his way if he gets a little bit too close.
Yeah. However, the contestation on the ground here is going to be a little bit weaker with both Knuten and Smashness up in the air, having to move away for a moment. Saint Moto is getting a little bit poked out on their way through. It feels like going up against the Ultron as Captain America can very much stymie your backline pressure. You have to be constantly careful about shifting around that drone, though, for maximum value. Low 9 have been able to claim the high ground, but it will be just as quickly evicted from it. Oh, what an intercept there from Jerky. Just the hit scans combining to make sure that that 50 HPS the Ultron receives is far from enough. The backline just gets ran through as Saint Moto finds the opening without that Ultron, who's just so vulnerable to getting ran down by the Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, Gonski as well had all of the Loki doppelgangers. The army very much had been assembled on that high ground too, so that you had 3 Lokis all looking at the Ultron the second that the rage came on out, and then they can burst from the high ground to the point itself off of the back of the Eternal Bond coming on through from Pin. Clone as Saint Moto is pushing even further into Zero Tenacity space to make sure that all of the angles can be developed before a retake situation can be put into motion for Ducky 1 or even Smashness with the Supernova. This Human Torch is going to be so exposed, and Jerky sees the split. Knuten's a little bit too far from the rest of his team. Out comes Galactic Legend, as without that Ultron, Zero Tenacity, the hand is forced. They've got to make up the absence with an ult.
They have to try and make it work. Lugia gets nothing with the Eye of Agamotto. Everyone was sent elsewhere in the midst of all of this. Crisis rains down the Strond Crows upon the coalesced forces of Zero Tenacity. But it's Pinclone who's the first to fall. Trades it out now for Oasis. A good trade coming through from Wolver onto a backline now. Winnie going to be under siege. Saint Moto starts to break in towards that backline. Wolver has to erect their own Aegis to try and defend themselves, as it's going to be a trade out between the Emma Frost. Smashness still reigns above it all. control and rains down fire upon an escaping Crisis. You're going to need more than a bird in the bush to get away from this one.
64% to 71% with Zero Tenacity having that Sonic Seduction, and Low 9 not having anything to counterplay it outside of just hiding for cover behind the map itself and potentially a well-placed shield. It's last fight though, and Low 9 have no choice but to walk directly into the ultimate that Zero Tenacity are going to use the second that this fight opens up.
The Sonic Seduction is going to be so brutal to try and deal with when you do not have a hugely reliable shield. Once that Aegis goes down, Jerky already noted on the outside. Saintamoto just plays around the outside. Saintamoto now has to make a decision. Do you want to try and intercede on behalf of your team to try and stop this play coming through from Ducky, or do you want to try and move in towards the back line itself? This seems like Oasis is going to be that primary target. Jerky really wants to get rid of Canutum, but guess what? The damage has already been done. The Rage of Ultron needs no anger management. He's equal to the Hulk when it comes to the burning lambast that he has laid upon this backline. Pinklon has to put down their healing bubble only for themselves, and a window sent forth as well to try and keep these Vanguards sustained on the point. But when you come into Lugia's domain, when you go under the sea, you get put down like a legendary bird. Zapdos stares enviously from afar as Lugia's attention is brought upon Low 9.
Yeah, at Low 9, the hand was forced. They had to burn regen domain before the fight even starts, thanks to a well-placed Carbon Crush coming on through from Ducky, which is followed up immediately by both of the shields, the Emma's Aegis and the Seraphim shield coming on through from Lugia to just block the LOS of any heal that could be sent their way. And with the Loki lamp removed, the Eternal Bond unfortunately does not have the space to keep the team sustained through all of that Rage of Ultron that is being put down onto the players that are still rotating onto the point itself. And now they're going to be down that ultimate. Pinclone is at least going to be able to take advantage, swapping on over to the rocket to provide the armor packs. And Zero Tenacity a little bit too close to their ultimates to sacrifice the charge.
The battle starts in 5, 4,
Zero Tenacity
2,
seeing their path to victory here, and it is most certainly paved with very successful Rage of Ultrons. That might be one of the most successful Rage of Ultrons we've seen thus far. When it came to VP, they really didn't put that much stock in the fragging power of it, instead was using it to force out strategist ultimates on the other side. And once again, Zero Tenacity make an early investment of their portal to claim the high ground.
Saintamoto on the low ground now tries to wrap around, but he's instantly marked out by Smashnez on this torch, and he has to give up that position immediately as Smashnez is keeping an eye on every single angle that Crisis could potentially pop up on.
The cross will be taxed. 2 players stunned. Pinclone and Crisis both finished off there by Lugia. No doubt given a momentary burst of damage boost from Oasis. A 3-2-1 successfully disassembles the push that Low 9 was so proud of to move into. It's going to be a full investment here from Low 9. 3 ultimates at once. Sonic Seduction, yeah, the Galactic Legend and the Freedom Charge, but up in the air. No one's getting the bonus health from Saintamoto. Oh, Low 9, this is economically ruinous.
This might be a pivot over to a new composition coming on through, but it was also something that Low 9 knew that they had to invest into. The Hela, the Star-Lord, the Captain America can all find value if you're in control of the space before the fight begins, but now you're going to be walking into a fight that you're going to have to pay a toll of numbers, of resources, of ultimates before you can even get to your goal of that objective. And Zero Tenacity are going to be able to drop a body surely before this fight begins, with the range, with the spam from the Ultron, from the torch, even from the threat of the Emma if you get too close.
Jerky works the margins, demands attendance. And Pinclone has gained a lot of space here for Low 9. Could start capturing the point already, waiting for a Terror Cape here from Pinclone to try and make everyone a little bit more vulnerable. But still, in the back, you've got to worry about Smashnez and Newton on the angles. So damage already been done to the remainder of your strategists, though. Oasis and Winnie have fallen on down. Lugia and Ducky, not so long for this world either. Crisis's kingdom has certainly been expanded.
Smart currency exchange coming through from Low 9. Translate the spam pressure from Zero Tenacity into immediate Eternal Bond from Pinclone so you can open up the fight. And then once Eternal Bond has expired, you've still got the regen domain from Gonski on this Loki to anchor onto this point. And now Crisis is in position. Jerky can jump onto Zero Tenacity mid-rotation, and Saintamoto can permanently be there to pressure and force the team to turn.
Morva Really charging up this beam right here already. The regeneration domains have come on now. That's a huge Sonic seduction. 3 players grabbed in place, but before the follow-up is there, they've mostly been able to save themselves. Smashness, though, just dunks on the head of Crisis. Pink Clone, the next to fall on down. Zero Tenacity, they strike back with such vigor here that Low 9 can barely stand up to it. Even with the freedom charge of Saint Emoto giving over that additional HP, it feels so far gone from a capacity for a retake. Low 9 is doing their best to stall this one out to at least extract percentage from the fight, but Knuten is just above it all, laying down so much fire.
Zero Tenacity have such a good read of the situation. They know that they can't stall, that they can't hesitate, and so they just send the fight immediately into brawl, breaking out with both Sonic Seduction and Fate of Both Worlds. As Low 9, they've got hesitation, they've got stall, but what they don't have is power when it comes to the 6v6 slug fiesta. And Zero Tenacity take full advantage. Saint Emoto now goes over to the point, drawing Lugia to have to contest. They know what the strange is. They don't have to worry about Eye of Agamotto for now, as Lugia on the low ground to get to the high is going to have to burn that shift, the levitation, and that's going to telegraph the ult.
Oh, Jerky on the off angle here, but inside the invisible boundary now, Smashness is going to come inside and try and take that aerial duel. Slowed on the exit means that it has to be a disengage. Pinecone doing their best to try and follow up with some healing, but guess what? The remainder of the team, they were so far away from the Eternal Bond. They were up on the catwalk, and while there's only one cat in town you have to worry about, that's Lugia with a 3-person stun off the back of the Eye of Agamotto, and Zero Tenacity perfectly play that fight. Don't even worry about the healing coming through from the Eternal Bond. 2-0 on Hell's Heaven.
Yeah, no 9 lives to save you there. That is a dominant performance coming on out from the end of Zero Tenacity. The hellish shenanigans worked into the Wolverine, but Soul Drainer never quite found a target. Smashness was always quite literally on top of things. There is a reason that this torch has been banned and barred from Zero Tenacity's end, as much as teams coming up against them have been able to secure it. And that's because Smashness just went 25-0. He did not drop, was never extinguished a singular time.
For Yomo's heads right there. Zero Tenacity, they definitely were more of a kite and fight than a tank and spank team, you know. We saw great rotations coming through from Winnie and Oasis, just buying time for Knuten and Smash to really leverage the off angles that they were gaining on Low 9's more front to back. The Ultron drone has no cooldown to reposition, so it's fairly easy to track that approach.
And drained of the Psylocke has followed through as well, given the fact that Psylocke was targeted. Does mean that Captain America on his own does not have to be dealt with as rapidly as is required when he has a backup, as Magneto is going to be removed for both sides, as both of them are going to be prioritizing retaining that Emma as the Vanguard instead.
All right, yeah, prioritizing that Emma. We did see it prioritized by Low 9 for Wolver to play, but honestly, I would have liked to have seen Saint Emoto pick up the Emma and beyond the Doctor Strange, where he has been getting so much value thus far. Wouldn't mind seeing Low 9 go for a Zero Tenacity, look for a Hulk pivot if things start to get a little bit dicey. Whenever Lugia is fantastic at the Hulk. Central Park is, of course, the map choice here, and this was Low 9's choice. They're going to go for a very early ban onto the Psylocke, which is kind of interesting considering that they do have quite a bit of space and runway before they have to really address that Psylocke.
Yeah, but if you want Smashness on the torch, banning the Psylocke is definitely going to force Low 9's hand into having to look at a torch ban a little bit earlier than they potentially would have wanted. It very much feels like Zero Tenacity are heating the pressure up for Low 9 to try and target out Smashness.
All right, both of the Vanguard du jour, the Phantom Vanguards, have now been banned away from Zero Tenacity. Likely unbothered by those. Unlikely to see a Lugia go pivot into the thing, though, given that Crisis is generally going to be playing over the Punisher, the Winter Soldier, or the Hela. Would be unsurprising to see the Punisher banned, and there it is. We might have to see a
Punso.
Punisher Protect here from
yeah.
Low 9. Or,
Zero Tenacity. I think that is the direction that you could go for sure, since you've now been able to make it that, yeah, Knuten is going to be the only Punisher on the scene, and Cloak and Dagger still being in play as well, but no, it's a Luna Snow save. Instead, as Low9 now really have to scratch their heads and try and figure out what to exhaust this last ban on, because Psylocke is still up for Zero Tenacity, and so too is Punisher and Wolverine, and it looks like they're actually going to be going for the Punisher prioritization, which means that Luna now allows that Psylocke so much more value, as Low9, anticipating a Psylocke coming through, are going to instantly be saving Gonski's Loki, so they have the doppelgangers to at least be able to try and absorb some of the pressure that comes from the Dance of the Butterflies.
Oh, if we see a Wolverine ban here, I would not be surprised to see Lugia actually make the play onto the Hulk. The Hulk really thrives with Luna on the field because she's so good at just sustaining through the meat sponging that he does, you know, the long-range healing, really not suffering that much from damage drop-off, and the capacity to give over that Snowflake, the Idol Aura, can be so important. And there it is, Lugia locking in the Hulk.
It's also for Ducky 1 on the Groot. Wolverine is not really what you want to have in play when Groot is going to be coming on through. But then again, we have seen that Zero Tenacity and Low9 have been able to deal with Wolverines in the past. And it being Central Park, we have seen Zero Tenacity in the past utilize Ducky with that Groot. And then you can get even more value with the Hulk coming through, as well as getting to see that Namor. Strangling Prison, Horn of Proteus is not an ultimate that you want to see get paired together if you're a strategist on the other side, because it has enough damage to pass, to break through all of the heals per second. It's just the regen domain that's going to be able to bail you out.
Regeneration domain might be the only option, but it was stolen away in advance by Zero Tenacity. They went for a prioritized ban on the Loki, if I remember correctly, their second ban after that Magneto, which could be incredibly important. Low9 going to be opening up on the attack first. Question is, do they instantly invest themselves a portal here from Wolver, or are they just going to walk it down slow and see what they're dealing with?
And it's going to be a little bit of a scout to come through first. Winter Soldier on the field as well for both of these teams, given that Loki is in play for both of these teams. Wolver Shield going to be breaking a little bit, but allowing Crisis a perfect angle to start building up to this first Kraken impact.
And even I simply lie. Crisis is going to be able to, of course, really move through. Well, both Crisis and Knuten are going to be able to tear through these clones with the Rotterstern at range, and of course the Kraken impact when it builds up. Already 50% here. Ducky got isolated. Must have been pulled in by Pink Clone right there, who's been having a lights out week on the Invisible Woman so far. Smashness already has used their Blessing of the Deep and has to be extricated from the situation by the usage of the Regeneration Domain. You can't really survive too easily though when you get hooked on in to the territory of Low9. Great play off the back of Saint Tomoto following up, and this is what I want to see. Saint Tomoto pivoting over onto the Emma.
Well, Ducky 1 going down early does mean that they're going to be able to Strange TP recontest, and oh, never mind. Strange TP and Trooper's Fist was not on the point in time, and that is now Low9 breaking into B, and Lugia has been found separated from the team, and a separated Hulk is a weak Hulk. That Vanguard is now going to get staggered even longer.
What a grab from Jerky. Just giving enough time for Lugia to reach the cart and stop it before executing once again. And it feels like right now the control onto Ducky has been absolutely sublime.
Saint Tomoto keeping up the charge on that. Emma does get grabbed out by the bionic hook, has the diamond form to pull back onto. Zero Tenacity try to pull this one back. Knuten with the ultimate, helped buoyed up by the fate of Bofors, potentially gets shut down by the Eye of Agamotto from Wolver though, and there it is, the Maelstrom of Madness takes the Winter Soldier down.
Quick tap of the purple aura, and guess what? It's a mistiming when it comes to both the Strangling Prison and the Horn of Proteus. They can't be used together. Zero Tenacity, I don't know how they fumbled this fight so hard. They have everything they needed, and now with so many players down, Lugia is using the World Breaker Hulk. This has got to be a comp pivot, right?
Yeah, Smashness is coming back on the Psylocke, just so they can potentially hit into that backline, maybe turn Low9's heads to have to peel for one of their strategists to drain the momentum and resources that Crisis is going to have heaped on their shoulders for the Kraken impact, as the Wolverine grabs, doesn't find the grab, finds the damage onto Ducky.
Yeah, the Berserk status serves them well here. I believe it was an attempt at a troll portal coming through from Wolver, but it was grabbed, stunned by the Bionic Hook of Newton. Ready to go yet again with another one. Smashnez on the off angle, needs to give over that drone, but Ducky won. Overwhelmed once again, going up against that Wolverine. It's so difficult when you are the wooden creature. Winnie the next one to fall on down. It's Wolver claiming all the space. The Wolfpack once again is riding forth, and Low 9, they are setting a record time here on Central Park.
This is a really difficult part of the map too, to use the Kraken Impact, as Knuten has to worry that he'll pump his head in the first aspect of third, and he's going to swap now over towards that Iron Man, having all of the spam pressure as well as the team up nanotech from Smashnez, so that he can get that beam that damages and heals enemies and allies alike, as we can see him to start to farm those Loki clones towards the first maximum pulse.
All right, Lugia back on his main, as it were. That's going to be a big Aegis coming up. What a shield from the Emma Frost. Ducky just forced to move away after using the Strangling Prison. Yancey Street Charge, that might be Ducky off the map right there from Jerky's play. Seems like they have managed to survive for now, but guess what? Lugia's claiming a bunch of space. The Repulsor Blast, too much to deal with. Zero tenacity. Investing the Rage of Ultron are rewarded for all of the dividends that they tried so early to purchase. It's a big investment, but Zero Tenacity have got the most important commodity, and that's ability.
The investment of Strangling Prison not in coordination with the Iron Man ult, though. I wonder if they're going to use it to just try and lights out shut down this Kraken Impact coming through from Low 9, because you do have to worry. Eye of Agamotto Kraken Impact is a lethal combination that Oasis might not be able to heal through, as Jerky's already gotten his hands on one, and that's the last stand when he's able to get the regeneration domain off in time, and Knuten is there on the other side. Armor Overdrive takes down 2, and Low 9 have to back away.
Just floats there menacingly with the armor overdrive. Wolver's gonna have trouble getting back into spawn right here. Crisis needs to be avoided. Oh, Ducky's a little bit far away. Must have been pinned off the map. Jerky with the perfect picture of the Wolverine. Has to be disengaged here. A lack. Oh, hello around the back. Newton's cooking. Newton's cooked, actually. Gonski grabs that one. Plenty of doppelgangers. Allow him to roll on through. But Nano Beam, the DPS isn't great. You were hoping to try and heal instead. Lugia isolated inside the invisible boundary. The strategist had no idea where their Vanguard was.
Oh, that's devastating. Zero Tenacity losing Ducky 1. It was awful for them. They need the Strangling Prison combined with Knuten, and now Low 9 get the opportunity to split the two ultimates from coming on through just by potentially taking the group down early. Lugia jumps to Knuten to provide the armor. The maximum pulse comes through with the Strangling Prison, but it's shielded by Low 9 and survived.
Only Lugia stunned out by that one. Nice blocking off of the hills coming through from Wolver. Heads up play to not be so greedy, but instead just to facilitate the frags as they come on through. Gonski in major danger. Smashnez unable to convert though. Crisis when it comes to aim. This guy is the one and only. And when he found that out the hard way in the midst of all of this, looking for a hook, Knuten manages to dodge around behind that pillar, but you need to get on to a point right now. Afflicted with the culling debuff. Lugia's going to have trouble surviving. Berserker Rage seems to have missed at the moment from Jerky. You just couldn't reposition Lugia. He's immune to all of that. A clobbering time in the back, but Lugia seems to be the only one who's been stunned amidst all of this. Maybe a Carbon Crush grabbed them out. Knuten with 2, but Vidalis grabbed by the invincible Pulse Cannon. And it seems like on this last point of Central Park, it's Zero Tenacity who are invincible.
Zero Tenacity just have so much map space. They've got all of the cover, plus their respawns are right there. Low 9 are slowly but surely chipping away at some of these ultimate economies, but with how much spam is available for this Ultron and the Iron Man, it feels like they're getting their ultimates up every second fight or so, and Knuten already is hovering above the doorframe, getting that damage, getting the accuracy markers that scouts out the positions, and out comes the Armor Core Overdrive to slow the rotation down yet again and force the regen domain before Strangling Prison comes through.
Oh, the follow-up on the Strangling Prison from the Stone Haymakers is absolutely brutalizing over Low 9. From 5 minutes of a time back, Mox, only 45 seconds remain.
Wolver does have that strange teleport, but Low 9 is saving it for when it's at its most valuable, when they have the least amount of time. They're going to have to deal with Knuten coming on through with another invincible pulse, and it feels like this Armor Core Overdrive has been the thing that's allowed Zero Tenacity to come back into this fight. Yet again it comes on through, and Low 9 pay Fate of both worlds just to pave their way.
Yeah, an exchange here for the Rage of Ultron. It's going to be all about where Knuten decides to try and put this Invincible Pulse on, and going up against Double Shield. It's difficult to get the value! And yet Gonski and Saintamoto are nowhere to be seen. Reduced to atoms. Knuten grabbed from the sky, taken to the earth. Jerky's turning him into some meat within there, but Zero Tenacity holding for 5 minutes on third. Low9 have their win condition, but they must be disappointed with how that went.
Knuten just waits so patiently for the EMEA Aegis to be placed. And from there, he just gets to utilize the AoE of the ultimate. You can finesse it. Even if there's a shield in the way, you can place your ultimate ever so slightly to the side of it or potentially behind it, and it will still be able to connect onto a player that, from their POV, they should be shielded from. Unfortunately, the second that Saintamoto places that Aegis, their fate is sealed, and back to the underworld they head.
It's getting real populated. Over the course of this series, many a frag between them. Knuten walking away with, I believe, more final blows than the rest of their team combined. That's just what happens when you put all your resources into the Iron Man. The Knuten Avengers are rising up.
I mean, if you take away the resources from SmashNez, they just get rerouted over to Knuten, and he got everything that he could possibly want. Low9 were just never able to find the Iron Man when we headed into third. Jerky could potentially have been a problem for him to deal with, but that building on the last part of third just provides so much cover for the Iron Man to hold himself around that you don't even have to worry about lacking the Invis Woman to be able to force physics, knock the Wolverine back from his connection. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Out comes Knuten in the Iron Man armor once more.
Tony Stark takes to the skies. The hero that Zero Tenacity needed, nay demanded, after being absolutely flummoxed on points 1 and 2. Oh, Jerky hiding over here could actually get a grab onto Knuten. Might well be a bait. Instead, it's going to wrap around behind the Vanguards on the entry. The Thing a little bit harder to grab, but Ducky's certainly going to be the primary victim here. Still, already the damage has been done. You were so worried about the Duck, you didn't look at what was in the rest of the bathtub, and it was filled with danger, that bubble bath. It was acidic.
Knuten's armor overdrive just buys so much space for Zero Tenacity to move off of the back of. Low9 respect it, but run away. Back towards the point they go, and they funnel directly into one small hallway, which is an absolute gallery for Ducky to come on through with these Groot walls. And Knuten off the first fight is already going to have the first ultimate on the field.
During the armor overdrive, the heal from Renano being very effective at sustaining the Iron Man even when facing down 6. Crisis falls down to a miscellaneous poke. Just the absolute smorgasbord of pain that's being pushed out here by Zero Tenacity once again. Yet another Invincible Pulse Cannon, good to go, making sure to break through that Guardian shield in advance. The Aegis is gone too. Oh, Pinkloin taken down before everyone else could roll on through. Saintamoto unable to Aegis themselves, and while it was a valiant attempt from Jerky to drag Knuten inside of the Invincible Pulse, inside of the Invisible Barrier, it could not work out.
Knuten's just playing connect the dots right now. Every single time there's a regen domain coming on through from Gonski, out comes armor overdrive, and all of the runes 100 HP just immediately disappear in the blink of an eye. And speaking about disappearing in the blink of an eye, Low9 are caught out. Half of that team is still in the B spawn, which means the Zero Tenacity gets so much free payload distance.
Oh, they have to touch with the Winter Soldier ultimate. It's just not what they wanted from that, and there's no one else there to try and follow up thereafter. The remainder of Low9 just have to stagger on in, and now they have to meet what Zero Tenacity did. A 6-minute hold on third to bring themselves into this series.
They've got invisible boundary, but Knuten has the one shot, and Ducky won with the strangling prison. Can even utilize the Groot CEC of the ultimate and bring them out of it. Someone's got to clear Knuten on this angle. Jerky's going to go over to the Hella hit scan to try and take the flyer down and clip his wings, but the hubris is going to be there. If they all walk out, then they don't know that the Iron Man's behind them, and here it is, maximum pulse.
Oh, I think Gonski Ray Reacted to that one in advance, sent in the doppelganger, raised up exactly what was needed with that crystal, and now it's down to Gonski. Great copy coming through. God of Mischief grabs the Lunar Ultimate, Fate of Both Worlds, a counter usage. Oh wow, used the wall right there to block out Lugia's counter ultimate. Want to use the clobbering time to stop any incoming from the follow-up, and still Lugia going to be overwhelmed here, and that's all down to Gonski getting the angle that was needed to shut it down with the Fate of Both Worlds.
I mean, one fight win. That's how Tenacity was able to claw their way through third for a 5-minute hold. Low9 get that one fight that they needed. It's going to be so much harder now to maneuver the mechanical flyers into a position where Knuten can get away with all that he was in first and second. Jerky and Crisis are going to have immediate access to the health bars coming through from all of these secluded chokes.
Things are going to be real difficult now for Lugia. Going up against the double poke of both a Hela and a Winter Soldier. Still a pocket going in onto Knuten. That forces out the regeneration domain from the Loki. And here comes the first of a Fate of Both Worlds, this time courtesy of Winnie. Maybe a way to try and shut this one down. You cannot heal through the environmental frags, so they do come through, but Saint Tomodo's nowhere to be seen. An invincible pulse cannon raised up already. Oh, the Goddess of Death reigns above. And when Knuten falls low, Wolf is there to deliver at the finality. And Crisis is creating a crisis of faith among Zero Tenacity. Two have already fallen down. Lugia gets a Yanzi Street charge frag of all things. And Ratatoska is moving forward, pounding with all 4 feet. The Vanguards are just doing it by themselves. They got an Ultron behind them. They got themselves the hold in place from a strangling prison from downtown. The invincible pulse cannon fails to hit pay dirt, but they will hit the mark where they needed to. The Invisible Woman could not make it to the end, and 6 minutes was just too much to ask for. Low9 are down 2-0 in their elimination match.
It costs so much to keep an eye on Knuten that once that problem had been solved, nothing was left. There was an economic crisis in terms of alts and resources that everyone had access to once Ducky and Lugia started really rolling on through, with the Groot and the Thing just frontline brawling into the space, still having strategists up as well to make sure that they had that area, that level of sustain to continue the momentum pushing on through. And that was such a fast take of first and second, and even though they got slowed down temporarily on third, they were able to come on through with the fights, utilizing Fate of Both Worlds to get an aggressive angle for Knuten and force Low9's hand into having to deal with the Iron Man immediately.
Oh, so difficult to try and deal with that. I'm like, honestly, finding those angles again and again. Respect Gonski being able to shut down that flank one with the doppelganger cast into the regeneration domain, just to make sure that all of that damage was converted into healing. Oh, that's what happened. Crisis body blocked it.
Yeah, he troopers fisted up so that he was able to absorb it.
Chucky must have been trying for a leap as well, with a feral leap to try and stun Knuten out of it, to be in the blast radius for that. Both duelists thought they had the hero moment, but it turned into Knuten just managing to take them both out at once.
Oh. And there too, the EMEA is just a little bit too far off of the ground, so that the AO back into the series or reverse sweep is entirely possible, but it's definitely going to be off of a good ban draft system coming on through, as Emma is going to be the vanguard that both of these teams prioritize keeping in rotation, especially if we're going to be seeing things like the Captain America circulating once more.
This is where we saw Low9 slay Insomnia yesterday, and I believe Zero Tash actually like going to this map, but I think they may like it more in theory than they do in practice. I don't think their win rate's actually that great on it.
Well, we saw them with the solo Vanguard all the way back on their first day of play in the group stages, where we got to see the triple duelist composition come from their side with Lugia on the Wolverine, given the fact that Magneto and Invis were all actually removed from Blood Karyudo in terms of that pick and ban draft system. So it's definitely going to be something that Low9 have to be cognizant of as a potential pop-up.
All right, so it's actually going to be protecting their Emma Frost here. Both teams opting into that one. And just removing Crisis's opportunity to pivot over onto that puncher. I think it's always going to be a smart ban against Low9, given what Crisis can achieve on that one. Smash Nares on the other side. Oh, we actually see an Ultron ban as well. The Flyers going to bed. I mean, this is also like a pseudo ban onto Knuten's Iron Man as well, which you don't really want to waste a ban on, because it's too much of a pocket strat to invest in.
Well, when SmashNaz gets rid of Torch, he pivots onto the Ultron. Tends to be how Zero Tenacity recoup that loss. So, like you said, this is a shadow nerf to Canuten's Iron Man if that comes on through. However, what's not a nerf is the fact that Zero Tenacity secure one-sided Punisher. So Canuten's not going to be going on to the Iron Man in the slightest when you have a Premier Duelist pick like that coming on through. And more importantly as well, Cloak and Dagger has been able to make it through for Zero Tenacity's side too, given the fact that Low9 put so much stock into double banning against SmashNaz instead.
However, Gonski being able to get away with a Loki, that is a huge asset to Low9 whenever Gonski is a fantastic Loki player. The streets were talking up the Gonski Loki, and it's time for it to deliver. The investment of the Protect, the hero Low9 need to rescue their series, the God of Mischief.
We could actually see the Squirrel Girl come through for Zero Tenacity. This is a strategy that has been popularized. A couple of teams have run it for multiple regions, actually, on the attacking rounds of Araka, where you take advantage of all of the narrow hallways, the projectile bounce, the ricochet off of all of those projectiles coming on through from Doreen to be able to incredibly quickly build up that Squirrel tsunami that just stampedes through a defense that is too static.
I mean, question is, if we do see double Squirrel Girls, is anyone going to be using Orion's Lancaster Bomber Crosshair?
Oh, please, no. You know, that clip actually went viral.
Oh. Oh, wow. I was unaware of that.
I was minding my own business the other day, just having a fun time of watching Marvel Rivals content, and all of a sudden I get flashbanged by Orion's Crosshair coming on through. I'm just like, no. Potentially we see it from the attacking side. The defense might also go for it just to have a little bit of a pressure on a regroup situation from the attackers, but it's much more commonly seen on the attacking side with the defenders preferring for a spawn camp composition, more vanguards in the mix to stall things out properly.
All right, SmashNaz is going to be rolling over here on to the Namor just to get some value out of this Lugia team up. And of course, the Lugia... Oh, wait, hold up. We're going to be seeing Morva play the Storm once again. We actually saw this yesterday in conjunction with the Johnny Storm to try and combine their ultimates, but we're not actually seeing the setup from the Human Torch just yet. A three-person fly-through here to try and force SmashNaz out, already having used the Blessing of the Deep. It's Gonski from the other side, the crossfire of those magic missiles that takes down the Namor.
Yeah, the one-sided Storm too, so you have that tempo push. You can outplay your opponent with sheer damage and speed alone as Jerky gets the better of Canuten, sending him off of that map. And with Punisher down, Zero Tenacity's chances of winning this fight go down exponentially to the point that they're just going to try and disengage and stabilize.
Yeah, maybe there's a world here where Zero Tenacity have to try and pivot to take advantage of Saint Tomoto being that solo vanguard, but it certainly is a little bit easier to do that with Lugia in the back, distracting all of your strategists. Crisis's disengagement. Oh, the Trooper's Fist actually gets him knocked down, unfortunately. Ducky does get kind of martyrdom there by Jerky, so that's going to be a slight opening.
Trade for trade, but Zero Tenacity with SmashNaz on this Psylocke, they now have a lot of mobility to put pressure onto the backline of Low9. As Wolver off of that Storm, they use it to break the first corner. Now it goes over to the Doctor Strange so that you have one extra Vanguard, one extra shield to try and give your team a little bit of survivability against Canuten, who's going to be coming on through with the final judgment. And it's going to be off of the back of that Eternal Bond from Oasis too.
SmashNaz tickles at the back, gets the unbreakable barrier from the Hulk as well. Moving forward now with the Eternal Bond, I believe it has actually fallen down off of the high ground, so Crisis needs to be careful where they're going. Inflicted with the Terror Cape temporarily, but the damage isn't really delivered. All eyes now on Ducky in the front line. Oh, and that's going to be the Culling Aura, getting all that it needs to try and reset this one. Crisis has to go back inside the invisible boundary, but it's broken down. Pink Clone was destroyed in the midst of all of this. Yeah, Jerky once again has gotten Lugia off the map, has been absolutely lights out when it comes to these environmental frags, but still Low9 off a massive investment can't get the car progress.
Yeah, Crisis is a little bit of an internal crisis of his own. Rounds the corner with Kraken Impact, and Canuten's up on the culling turret, and he just goes, nope, and tries to go back to his team, but gets taken down in the interim with Canuten not even needing to utilize the final judgment. It was also a copied Eternal Bond coming on for a double up from both Oasis and Winnie, so final judgment now is going to have to come alone off of just space provided by the Vanguards, and Ducky 1 and Lugia are providing ample room right both ultimates invested, but that allows Wolver to come through with a huge Eye of Agamotto, claiming both of the backline.
Yes, done both the strategists there. Oasis and Winnie both full. Smashners with only 138 HP to work with is just going to have to watch Lugia's nubile form be destroyed. A force physics from Pink Clones, the final hit they were looking for, and finally Low9 get the opening. And once again, when you need a hero, look to the leader of the Wolfpack, look to the west and listen for the howl.
Yeah, Wolver with the Maelstrom of Madness follow through is the thing that allows Low9 to finally break first. They still have to worry, though, about this final judgment, which has been delayed, and delayed a little bit further as Knuten goes off the map.
Unfortunate. Is going to mean that Zerosnasty have to give up a huge amount of space here. Early attempt at a Sonic Seduction. Oh, that's going to grab in Ducky, who was controlled first by Jerky, offered up to the White Queen herself. And it hasn't been great progress on the Flora Colossus thus far, but moving through these chokes is going to be very difficult for Zerosnasty now. They might have to invest something like a Final Judgment.
I mean, they've got to worry about that Eternal Bond copy that Gonski has to be able to secure. Zerosnasty finally line up the Final Judgment, but Winnie's getting pressured. There comes the copy, God of Mischief from Winnie into Eternal Bond. Knuten now with the Final Judgment puts the pressure onto Low9 as they all try and fall back, disengage into the safety of Invis boundary. And though the Terror Cape did come through, the regen domain keeps everyone healed through. And now Kraken Impact turns back the fight back into Low9's control.
Oh, it's a perfect bait and switch from Low9. And now Jerky's just going to be the final note in this song. However, it's not a happy song for Zerosnasty. They invested so much having to go forward. And that all came down to Crisis getting an early poke as well. Now TPing back is Knuten. Needs this last second contest onto the Flora Colossus, stopping B from being finished that early. They're moving forward, though, with an Eternal Bond coming through. So there's plenty of staying power has already been taken down. Sentient seized and thereafter punished. A Terror Cape is going to mean plenty of damage to try and work with. Knuten sees Smashness fall before them, and it's going to be difficult to try and survive this one. Just floats away with the Cloak of Levitation. Lugi has arrived with the clobbering time. Stuns out two, but Gonski's able to survive courtesy of their own regeneration domain. Crisis falls through the cracks, however. When everyone's busy thinking about peeling for themselves, that's when everything can start to fall apart. Both of the strategists seduced by the White Queen. Ducky gets the value they were so desperate to try and find.
Clobbering time from Lugia, uproots Low9, Psionic Seduction catches them, not quite securely as they fall. It's into a pit of danger that Zerosnasty are in full control of, but Knuten now onto the Doctor Strange because of that teleport is not going to be that for the Punisher. So all of the damage is going to come through from this Eye of Agamotto, which Saint Tomoto can shut down. Zerosnasty have to respect the win condition. Low9 are in control of Eye of Agamotto. Last Stand as well as Kraken Impact can all finish off the fight.
Rolling forward once again with the God of Mischief providing the addition. Oh, Oasis grabbed out of the Eternal Bond. It wasn't the caster of the ultimate though, so it is still available. Three-person Eye of Agamotto from Knuten. Not just the duelist, can deliver on the Strange as well. And the delivery certainly was found here. Gonski is going to be staggered on the other side. Ducky walking up with 100 charged beam.
Oh, they're just camping the spawn. If it's the Strange TP, it's Jerky having to go over towards the Spider-Man so he can physically get into position and touch. They think better of it. They put Saint Tomoto onto the Venom instead, as Overtime will indeed activate. But Low9 haven't been able to pull off the portal.
Oh, Lugia as they come on through. Just able to do so much damage with a Stone Haymakers. Knuten has returned to Vanguard duties in front of all of this. Surely you can't survive. Oh, Crisis rolls on up with this. Now needs Smashness. If they can start to follow up, Crisis! Is he him? He very well could be. Another reset going after Gonski alongside the Venom. And I'm having a crisis of faith right now. Zerosnasty look like they had it in the bag. They can't TP back. Oh, Crisis. He is him.
Lucky Bonds incarnate Crisis proves to be. Bails Low9 out of such a rough situation as Zero Tenacity winning on that Loki worked against them. Eternal Bond is out from Oasis, but the doppelgangers are still up, and Knuten goes over to the Moon Knight. I mean, you've got Loki doppelgangers. Low9 are playing so stacked up. You should be able to build a Hand of Conchu almost immediately. He's already 80% to the ult. kill.
275 HP, baby. The buffs have come on through. We got the survivability. We got the ult to play with. Lugia grabbed. Crisis already punished, though. Here comes the hand of Khonshu raining down upon low 9, and the damage is easy to follow up for Zero Tenacity. They have the mobility to try and roll on through. Jerky going to be the next one to fall, but there's still 40 seconds to play with.
But it sunk the momentum. Low 9 have backed up all the way to their spawn. They've lost control of so much space. Crisis is going to have the ultimate Kraken impact, yes, but Zero Tenacity have room to be able to disengage it now.
Down to 30 seconds.
And they have so much safety up here on this bridge as well. Going to take so many resources from Low 9 to try and remove them from it, so we swap over onto the long-range poke instead. Jerky moving on to the Hella Smash, and it's caught out a touch too early. A big Carbon Crush is laid elsewhere, and Wolver manages to find Ducky when they're in the midst of the enemy team. This might be an over-investment here, though. Oh, that's a big clobbering time. 5 stuns from Lugia. That's why he's the GOAT, baby. But the follow-up's not there. The walls are brought up. Oasis is stuck against the Thorn Lash walls, and probably able to take some damage from the Eternal Bond that was laying on out. Zero Tenacity are going to be forced to run elsewhere.
Knuten does have Hand of Khonshu. Compare it up. It's just one fight that Zero Tenacity need to win if they invest it all, but the staggers are brutal. Lugia goes down. Low 9 now take possession of the high ground. Knuten hides, plays invis, doesn't want to get scouted on out because he's the win condition. If they all invest Dance of the Butterflies, Hand of Khonshu, and Psionic Seduction at the same time on the objective itself, Low 9 should topple.
Overwhelming firepower. That's what Z10 have in their back pocket. Is what they need to deploy. Lugia already going up against 100 charge. Emma Beam Wolver's fallen down. Smashness in the back. Sonic Seduction drops on from behind. That's going to be the Dance of the Butterflies. The Hand of Khonshu. The overwhelming Alpha Strike for Zero Tenacity were waiting for. They crunched from both sides. And Low 9 are turning to diamonds under the pressure.
Zero Tenacity, just like we were seeing in previous days where teams identify that Loki doppelgangers are going to give a huge advantage to Winter Soldier's resets on Kraken Impact. Knuten's like, wait a minute, my unks are gonna bounce permanently. For Low 9's players, he builds those Hand of Khonshus up so quickly, and then they have such a good grasp of where to take that last fight too. It's in such a small space, so every single player who's trying to keep themselves on that objective is taking damage from the Psionic Seduction, the silence as well, making sure that they can't hit their abilities. Dance of the Butterflies manages to punish the fact that they all tried to stack up and hide behind the Aegis coming on through. And then off of the back of that, Hand of Khonshu is going to be doing so much damage too because all of the players are there. Throw an Ankh in, grab them all into one place. Zero Tenacity just needed one fight, and the second that the swaps came through, they were setting up to take it.
Yeah, great heads-up play from Knuten. A hero we rarely see. The Moon Knight did receive a recent buff, but I still don't think it's enough to make him a mainstay. Zero Tenacity now have their win condition. They can walk away into a series against Virtus Pro if only they can capture 2 points and 97 meters.
Yeah, you can see Zero Tenacity, they're thinking it's going to be a stacked spawn hold once more. That's why we've got the Squirrel Girl and the Moon Knight. Low 9 not going to be playing into the overloaded Vanguard composition, but Smashness remains on the Squirrel Girl regardless. Knuten seeing, okay, they're playing a little bit too split. Over to the Punisher I go. Definitely the better duelist with the better ultimate cycle, given the fact that Oasis and Winnie are both going to be able to pocket him.
Yeah, a little less vulnerable to the Captain America as well, as you can just roll out the Adjudication Shotgun if you need it. Ducky up to 100 charge. Now he's going to be a bit of a demon to try and deal with. We love seeing Lugia over on this Wolverine. Crisis hates to see the Squirrel Girl though. It's a little bit cheesy, but can you argue with results for Nuts Strike Home?
Can you argue with the fact that Smashness is 9% off the first ultimate? Give it half a second and he'll have it up. There it goes. They still haven't sent it out as everyone from Low 9 pulls back and disengages. Regen domain used to make sure that Wolver is able to get back to the team safely. And there goes the tsunami. And the ripple effect is going to be that that payload gets so much freedom of space.
Yeah, Low 9 have to give up a little bit of space there to try and deal with the unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami. That was Ducky's turn to roll on forward here. Knuten's already fallen on down though before the Eternal Bond even came out. Oasis has to be careful about getting grabbed out of their AoE, and that's going to be an invisible boundary wrapped up here by Pinklone to try and stop the forward progress. And it seems that Low 9, their investments are being rewarded. A beautiful headshot from Crisis, getting the final hit when it was most needed.
Yeah, Crisis.
Revenge.
Just going for the troopers first, getting immediately into Smashnez's face. Squirrel Girl shenanigans have seen through, it got value. It's last fight on first now, and over towards the Gamma we go. Lugia on the Hulk, Smashnez the Namor, so that they can play counter to Saint Tomoto when he tries to dive onto that objective, or potentially counterplay into the backline. As Smashnez takes the TP and directly takes the fight to Steve Rogers himself. You can't do that all day when Smashnez and Lugia are directly on top of you. But Gonski says farewell, goodbye to Zero Tenacity's two strategists. The backline disappears.
Yeah, your backline's Gonski. Unreal. Must just have a huge setup here with 3 doppelgangers lying for 120 damage per shot.
That's actually crazy. He did that with no damage burst either. Because they're not running the CD or the Mantis. So Zero Tenacity say, okay, take 2, same angle of approach. The XL on to the Captain America is strong, but it's Knuten that goes down still.
We're just having so much trouble trying to find any space here. The second anyone rounds a corner, they're instantly decimated, be it by Gonski's array of doppelgangers. And that's going to be a big investment here from Jerky already. Using the Rage of Ultron to try and make sure that this high ground can be claimed. Oh, and Smashnez is the final one to fall. And Zero Tenacity for running low on time.
Yeah, Knuten is going to have final judgment, but they just haven't been given the space to breathe. The Punisher is either picked or the strategists behind him. Luna really making full advantage of the defensive favor that Arako falls into after that first fight is done. Smashes and Lugia still trying to find this off angle so that the rest of the core can walk forward a little bit safer as Ducky 1 goes out to pressure the Captain America. Psionic Seduction, though, comes on through from Low 9 side to shut down any resources that could have gone Knuten's way. Final judgment is shut down immediately.
It's Gonski again. Now to the back. Saint Tomoto knows that there can be no survivors. Crisis won't even let them reset. Instead,
oh no,
the constant boops.
Oh no,
they're pushing via the attempt of a Trooper's Fist. They just do not let Lugia go reset. 18 seconds remain, Nox.
Oasis is going to have Eternal Bond, but Crisis on that Winter Soldier can grab you out of your ultimate regardless. It's going to have to be a hero's moment coming on from Zero Tenacity, but for Low 9, Crisis has been what they've turned to the most, and he's got his ult too.
Already, regeneration domains have been used over here. In comes the Horn of Proteus. Seems like the damage hasn't been done. Crisis managed to survive through it all. Invisible boundary drawn on up. It's a big investment from Zero Tenacity. It had to be. There are no second chances. There are no extra rounds. Crisis afflicts multiple players with a culling debuff off the back of the Kraken impact. But Lugia is searching for victims. Going after Steve Rogers. The Hulk begins to smash. Pinklone turned into a pin cushion by Smashnez. But Crisis is still going. It's a crisis of faith. It's a crisis on Arako. It's a crisis of the Flora Colossus, but there's no crisis on deck for Low 9. It's all about the accuracy, the overwhelming power. Buckathan Barnes has delivered again.
Buckle up, we go another round. Low 9 deliver on Arako and stop the series before it becomes a 3-0. What a convoy map. And I mean, if you're Zero Tenacity, surely that's going to hurt some momentum, because you really did feel like you had a full handle of this team. And then Gonski and Crisis just said, we got our best heroes, and we say no.
All right, for Low 9, the effort, the perseverance for learning, it's starting to pay off. And it seems like for now, what is really paying dividends is banning out both the Ultron and the Human Torch, getting rid of the flyer options for Zero Tenacity when it comes to a ground battle. If you're just looking Crisis in the eyes, that's where Crisis is at their most powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, if you manage to force Smashnez onto the Psylocke, Gonski's got the Loki. You really don't have to worry about that duelist if you're a Loki player, because you can mitigate the ult, you can mitigate the original pressure that Psylocke can output as well just by devious exchange. Psylocke thinks that she's taking the Loki down, and surprise, all of a sudden you're in a different position in space entirely, as Crisis really was just absolutely popping off. The Winter Soldier, the ultimates, they were so strong. This moment here, where Low 9 were able to come on through in overtime with just reset after reset, even through the Eternal Bond, coming out from Oasis being able to secure those picks. Though that being said, since it was a full hold, second and third were entirely unnecessary, just additional flair for Low9 to flex how strong this team truly can be.
Absolutely true. While we're glazing on Crisis like some Dunkin' Donuts employees, I've got to say, I think that Crisis, from what I've seen, might have one of the best mental maps, like the mini map in his brain of what's going on in these fights of one of all players.
Valuable for Zero Tenacity.
Krakoa is going to be the choice of Zero Tenacity, taking us back to a domination. And now you've got to once again potentially worry about Saint Tomoto on the Captain America.
You've also got to worry about Rez.
Yeah.
You really have to worry about Rez, because Knuten does like playing the Adam Warlock a whole lot. As Low9, ooh, that's an Emma's save rather than a Loki, which means that Zero Tenacity's next ban is either going to be Jerky's Psylocke or a Loki play coming on through, and they decide to let Gonski's Loki through. And so far, Low9, their next save comes at the end. They don't get the ability to save that Loki now.
Yeah, definitely somewhat out of their hands, but here we go again. It's going to be just getting rid of those flyers. Just going to give Saint Tomoto so many more targets to try and play through. I wouldn't mind seeing a Captain America ban here from Zero Tenacity, knowing that they're likely to go up against a more ground-born composition. See what they save first.
Well, there goes Smashnez's entire hero pool. The Ultron and the Torch removed. Zero Tenacity also removing Crisis from that Punisher, so we're likely going to be seeing the Winter Soldier forward and defrosted once more. As Low9 now can, yeah, I would say either a Luna ban or potentially you target out a Res comp strategy.
Yeah. Or you try and make sure there isn't like a Punisher gradient. But, seems like Crisis is very comfortable just playing on the Winter Soldier for now. That could actually be the last ban of Zero Tenacity now that they have a Loki guaranteed. We're likely going to see Gonski's Loki protected here. It's just been so valuable throughout the series. There's no reason to let it go.
Yeah, there goes the Loki save, and indeed, I would agree. I think a pivot now to just removing the Winter Soldier is actually really valuable coming on through from Zero Tenacity. Since Crisis's hero pool, his Winter Soldier has been the standout for sure, but no, it's going to be, ooh, they thought about the Wolverine, which means that we're probably going to be seeing Groot come through from Ducky 1 at some instant on one of these rounds, but that does free up Crisis for the Winter Soldier once more.
Yep, the Winter Soldier is once more on deck, and that means Jerky can still terrorize everybody on the Wolverine. Luckily, there are far fewer death drop pits on Krakoa that need to be worried about, so Jerky's just going to be going for the old classic Giga Powerful Wolverine.
There's the Res comp that we were expecting coming on through from the side of Zero Tenacity. We do know that Oasis loves to play the Mantis. It is one of his favorite strategists that he gets to put into the mix, and he's been playing it for a very long time too, so he's definitely going to be bringing the damage to the sides of that one. So too is Knuten. His Adam Warlock stats have been through the roof the last couple of times that we've been able to see Zero Tenacity on the Res comp in the likes of Hall of Dajalia in the past.
So against as much value. I did have my doubts about the viability of the Res comp yesterday, although I am a noted Res comp hater. And
I heard from Dustin that you and he are both against this composition.
Yeah, I just think that they don't. Usually they don't do enough damage. Smash Those being on the Punisher, though, is going to really change the vibe of that, because Punisher just pushes out so much damage.
Yeah, and you don't need to be very forward in your positioning either. If you have a Starlord with a Magneto, your Starlord is always going to be inside the enemy team. Smashnez is not going to be inside the enemy team, but he's definitely going to be at the forefront of their minds, thinking about them right now, as that Strange Portal has allowed him to take center stage right on the point itself, and those Groot walls are going to be going down far faster than they can be built.
Oh yeah, they are going to be broken. Too sweet as they approach. They also going to be used to build up Ducky as well when it comes to that charge. Actually has to use the Carbon Crusher to try and escape an ambush right there. So that's going to be one offensive power that's not going to be seen. Oh my goodness, Knuten's already down. Should be able to rest themselves using the Karmic Revival. Oasis exactly the same. They're just overwhelmed here. You know what? Res comp haters rise up. It's time for us to put this one to bed.
Crisis too gets 60% to the first crack and impact off of how stacked Tenacity were playing. It was a soul bond aggressive cooldown push, traded with a regeneration domain from Gonski, who, by the way, has already got God of Mischief.
Like, Gonski's just the guy. Might actually be the true God of Mischief. Like, Gonski may have been, you know, potentially just a shapeshifted actual Loki.
Well, we did say that we were anticipating a Loki ban coming through at some point, as Lugia on that Wolverine is going to be looking to grab out Saint and Moto. The Emma gets the diamond form, though, and gets the kick to avoid being isolated by a Groot.
Nice. That would have been their Groot as well. So just as well that they had the Carbon Crush ready to go. Wolver overwhelmed here. The damage that comes through from that Punisher is not to be underestimated. A solo ultimate coming through from Lugia. Tries to isolate one of these support. One of these strategists indeed is Pinkman, who's isolated at this moment. Smashnez needs all the support in the world to try and shut down Crisis. The culling effect still remains thereafter, though. There could be an attempted Karmic Revival. No, Canuten's still 30% away from it. Just hasn't been able to contribute as much to these fights. Still, it's contributing when it comes to final blows, grabbing two. Gonski falling down, the same as Saint Amoto.
Yeah, Winnie doing a good job of utilizing the Psionic Vortex, sending it right into the regeneration domain AoE field for Gonski, so that they're forced to play outside of it and allowing Canuten to come on through with the pick. Cosmic Revival will finally have been built up, but you do have to worry about Jerky coming on through with a last stand to be able to homing beacon in on the position of the Raz.
Wolver with a strangling prism. Smashnez would be an ideal target. Very few means of defending themselves in the midst of all this. And yeah, there it is. Smashnez grabbed up Winnie. Too late to respond to this one. Amon Lugia may well have been able to pin Saint Amoto inside the invisible boundary. A quick flick into diamond form, and she just becomes a diamond under the pressure. Crisis, an uncharacteristic couple of misses there on the hook onto Lugia, and still Ducky believes that it's turnable, and they might well be right. Lugia with a huge investment, and then quickly ducks away through the teleport. Will be able to come back again once more. Didn't expect a second round of Wolverine, did ya? And Gonski now is in major danger as the Berserk state slices through the God of Trickery.
I mean, Tenacity, even if they lose this fight, they're more than happy for it to run long, considering they're in control of the point right now. And it was still turnable too, given the fact that Canuten has the Comic Revival in the back pocket. He doesn't have the Cocoon state, though. It was burned in the fight before, so if he goes down mid-cast of the ultimate, that effect will run its course entirely, as Low 9 have been holding. Other than Strangling Prison, they didn't contribute any ultimates in the fight prior. They know that this next one, the Comic Revival fight, is the one where they have to have resources, as that is a very fast sedation sent out, but it comes and costs Wolver.
Oh, that's a big loss. Still, they believe that it's winnable. Jerky disagrees. Grabbing themselves too. Lugia noted on the other side. It's actually a resurrection behind. It's instead of underneath. And that means the Crisis easily finds them, starts chaining together again and again and again. It's Lugia who's the next to go. And now Ducky is next up on the docket. The resurrections are so easy to shut down for a Winter Soldier. Chasing after Lugia. Crisis needs to make sure they have a bit off more than they could chew. Is that Canuten who's still alive back there? I see an outline.
He's self-rezzed.
Uh-oh. I know, he's fine. He's fine. Wait, this is Low 9 spawn, I believe.
Yes, it is. He's not fine right now. In fact, he's having to take a deal right now with the Doctor Strange, which means that he's not there with the rest of his team for Soul Bond.
It's okay. Distractionary measures. Out comes the final judgment here from Smashnez. Instantly taking down Jerky, punishing them for a feral leap gone astray. And it's the Venn diagram of violence that's been raised here. Lugia go. That's a massive last stand. 3 players dragged into the air and 3 players slain thereafter. Lugia vanquishes Low 9 and says, "You will not chase down my Canuten."
Tenacity should be able to take this round, and indeed, there it is, but it looked close. However, Tenacity just being able to stall out those fights for as long as they did, stopping Low 9 from having the time to come back on through, the point percentage too far against them for a Strange Portal recontest to potentially flip the script. As we head to the second round, Wolver actually is going to sacrifice an entire charge of Eye of Agamotto to go over to that Storm so that we can have damage boost potential, more resources sent over to Crisis's side.
Get ready.
All right, Rescomp haters, it might be Jova. Might be the best comp of all time. Hate to admit it, but the results are standing for now. For Zero Tenacity, not too many changes going to be made here. I do think that Wolver is going to have a little bit of survivability trouble against the Knutons, Adam Warlock, and the Punisher.
And the Punisher, and potentially the Hela too, as I think Zero Tenacity just put someone onto that one too, as I saw her pop up for a mere moment. And that is going to make it particularly difficult for the Storm, who, unlike the Torch, doesn't really have freedom of movement up in that sky. But if you can win the first fight and have tempo up against Zero Tenacity, if Knuten uses Soul Bond aggressively, you can try and match it with the Goddess boost from low 9 side.
All right, 2 solo Vanguards, just going to be the Emma Frost. Wolver just wants to be off of that group. They're so vulnerable to getting bullied by the Wolverine and feeding over charge towards that last stand as well. You can see that Jerky actually is lurking underneath at the moment. I believe the Feral Leaps have gone awry. That's a huge pull over onto Knuten. But I think that Lugia may have actually ran an interception. Might have to give their life for it, though. Already has had their own passive burn. Still winning, escorting everyone out. Crisis is isolated over here on the point. A double tap onto Knuten. Great accuracy. Still the Karmic Revival ready to go. Instantly just cocoons on the point. Not worried at all about this. Lugia isolated, gets grabbed, I believe, by Jerky, but as for Soul Resurgence from Oasis, it just gives sustainability necessary.
Yeah, and immediately Zero Tenacity can just turn the pressure up and walk onto the players of low 9 Crisis. They were trying to care for that Winter Soldier so that he had the confidence to go for Kraken Impact, but it was not to be. He gets run over, and Zero Tenacity just run over the rest of low 9 afterwards. We've got a Mega Hurricane, we've got Kraken Impact, but low 9 have to walk into a set-up Punisher, and they have to clear the angle that Lugia is going to be playing this Wolverine off of. An easier said than done. They've been able to figure out Jerky's position. That's already the Wolverine passive force. The interception is there. Saint Tomoto with a Carbon Crush saves his duelist, and Zero Tenacity are forced to back off.
Oh, the triage of Adam is also so good for allowing your Wolverine to survive off those disengages. You just get so much off of the little live stream that is thrown on out. Gonski has activated their own ultimate here, but I don't know if they really have a staying power for this one. Final Judgment activated by Smashness inside the invisible boundary. A last stand is helping elsewhere as well. That's down to Lugia Go, and you better be Pain Clones, a victim of that one. Zero Tenacity is 60% towards claiming their spot against Virtus Pro later on.
Oh, they're pushing for more. There's the Storm. Does smash us? Oh, he absolutely does. He full sends it. Through the portal we go. Jerky is forced to just run out, and that sends him directly into the crosshairs of Oasis, who just scoops him up with the Mantis Primary. And that is a brutal stagger. Low 9, they've got ultimates, but it feels like they've never got the space to fully utilize them.
Yeah, they're really struggling to take this high ground. Just constantly getting that live stream on Lugia gives him so much sustainability for now, and the Culling Turret just does so much for Zero Tenacity. They've already made Low 9 give up on taking this area even to begin with. One last fight for Low 9 to stay alive in Ignites, and Jerky still waiting for their regenerative healing factor to come up. They have a last stand, don't have the rage to really make it work just yet. Crossing open ground might be too risky, and Knuten comes from the back, an opening big onto the Wolverine. It was so much to ask for, and yet Knuten delivers. But here's Crisis, the hero that always comes through when Low 9 need them the most, but the Soul Resurgence could be too much damage. Oh, the Karmic Revival, Soul Bond, make sure that all of that damage is shared on out. Wolver needs to be the hero that comes through here with the Omega Hurricane. However, it's going to be very difficult to survive in the face of Smashness. Yeah, the Final Judgment. There's Jerky from the other side. Oh, the duelists from Low 9. They're clutching when they need to. They're surviving by the skin of their teeth.
It's at the cost of all of their ultimates too. Pin Clone's going to have Invis Boundary, and Saint Tomoto needs to pull up the Psionic Seduction immediately. But Zero Tenacity, they have so much time to build up the ultimates and then just win. One fight necessary. And Low 9, if they start losing their players, they're going to have to strange defeat back into a brawl fight that every single time Rescomp wins by out-sustaining you.
It's very tough. Picking up Smashness and Lugia that early is exactly what you wanted for a start, though. Zero Tenacity weren't overcommitted to this fight, however, so they're easily finding it able to disengage.
Yeah, this is just going to be a series of dry fights, and by that we mean going in, committing very little, just base cooldowns, no ultimates for Zero Tenacity before they feel comfortable, fully moving over to the point and trying to take the fight 6v6. Does allow Low 9, though, these occasions to come on through with immediate picks before the fight begins. Gonski with his doppelgangers being able to output so much damage. Saint Tomoto taking advantage too of the team split from Zero Tenacity, and Psionic Seduction actually forces Oasis's hand. Soul Resurgence comes out, and all of a sudden their position positions are directly in front of Crisis. Kraken Impact is hitting its mark.
Oh, Crisis shut down by the Sonic Seduction here. Ducky's getting the value. The resurrections came through exactly when they were needed. Gonski has gone for a copy onto a Karmic Revival. It could be unbelievably clutch, but Lugia is clutcher. Gets even more. Saintamoto's down. Jerky's nowhere to be seen. Gonski, yes, revives himself, and Jerky is brought back into the fray. But it's Zero Tenacity who are in control of the fight, coming back with the strange TB. They're having trouble exiting at the moment. It's Crisis who's responsible for this. Has already lost half their HP, and while there is going to be an Omega Hurricane to try and play with here for Wolver, the damage might well not be enough. Lugia goes slammed down by Jerky, but he just didn't have the range. He's taken off the point. Zero Tenacity claim their match against Virtus Pro.
It could have been so huge. It could have been so huge. The God of Mischief onto the Karmic Revival, but Lugia on the Wolverine sees it coming from a mile away and just gets the absolute perfect position to remove it. And from there, even being able to find the Feral Grab too off of the sleep provided by Oasis to fully remove any form of contest on that point allows Zero Tenacity the win onto Krakoa. And I mean, Rescomp, you don't need to win with Rescomp, you just need to not lose the fight until it starts going your way and the other side runs out of anything that they can use to counterplay you. And that's exactly what Zero Tenacity take advantage of.
I mean, some people may have asked why Lugia's got GOAT in his name. Hey, no one asking any more. 13 final hits. And these are the kind of shenanigans that we saw at the beginning of Z10's run here at Ignite. And they've come full circle now when they mattered the most, when the chips were down. Lugia delivers on the Wolverine.
I mean, we said, right? He can play the Vanguard, but he can also flex over to the thing that gives Vanguard players nightmares for weeks. And coming on through with that Wolverine, being able to challenge low 9, punishing the fact that so many of their resources were diverted over to make sure that Crisis was finding value on this Winter Soldier. And if you're looking at the Wolverine, you're not looking at the Punisher, you're not looking at the Atom, you're not looking at the Mantis. All of these things have the ability to just remove you in the blink of an eye if you're not too careful. But if you don't deal with the Wolverine, he's going to remove you in the blink of an eye if you're not careful. Zero Tenacity just had so many answers for every single problem that low 9 could potentially pivot to them.
Yeah, just great forward thinking from Zero Tenacity. I think Canuton tweeted out a little bit about how they didn't really have a great plan for their last fight against Rad. The hubris got to them a touch, but they came in today humble, studied, and ready to play their best, and they're certainly rewarded for that preparation.
And they also had an adaptation. They were anticipating after Araco, 100% they knew that Smashner's hero pool was going to get diminished. They knew that it would be a Human Torch and an Ultron ban, and they just went in going, okay, well, let's play Rescomp. That's why they decided to take us to Domination too, rather than a different map type, because Domination is the strongest map type for Rescomp, because you just need one fight. If you win the first fight, because you have things like Soul Bond when the other team has no answer for it, which is effectively right off of the...
I believe in the comp. Let's bring in the GOAT himself. We need to have a quick interview with Zero Tenacity to figure out what just went down. Lugia, the GOAT.
Hello.
How's it going, bud?
It's going pretty well. We're very excited. I mean, that was some pretty interesting games. You had a bit of a hiccup on Araco, but yeah, we brought it back on Krakoa on a comfortable map, and then closed it out.
Can you give us a little bit of context behind said hiccup on Araco? Was it something that went wrong on your team's end, or do you think it was something that went better for the other side?
I mean, honestly, Crisis played amazingly. Jerky played really well on the angles. It was more a case of, I think the energy went a bit down in that game. But no, absolutely, L9 played incredibly well on that map, and it was just very hard for us to get through. So that's all I can say about it, yeah.
You're one of the few players who actually see bring out the Thing with some regularity. What's the use case for the Thing for you?
So we normally angle it when pretty much every other tank's bad. I find that if I'm on a tank that gets bullied pretty heavily by Emma and Wolverine, I'll just go Thing and just stand in front of them, be like a wall for my team, like you saw on the Central Park map. So it just allows me to hold the space more effectively than other tanks like Strange, for example.
And how did you fall into having the hero pool of Vanguards, but then also Wolverine flex, which surely feels a little bit like betraying the role when you flex over to that duelist?
Well, so when I first played the game, I was a Wolverine one trick in Season 0 as well as Thor. And Wolverine's my favorite superhero growing up. So it was kind of just, I innately just took on the responsibility of it. And I think I've just continuously played him throughout the time of playing this game. And then adopted more, I guess, like Hulk with the protective abilities and stuff. And I've kind of just developed a play style around like melee DPS characters and tanks primarily. But yeah.
Yeah, you really are a danger up close. You guys have a big match coming up later today. You've earned your spot going up against VP. You're probably going to have like 2 hours until then. Does the team have like a plan together during those 2 hours?
Honestly, I think we're going to relax. The tension's very high. Obviously, we need to take a breather a bit, calm down a little bit, and then we're going to talk about bans and how we're going to approach certain compositions that we've seen them play. But aside from that, I'm honestly not that sure myself, so I'm sorry about that.
So Knuten tweeted out yesterday after your match against Rad that maybe there wasn't as much preparation into that match. Did you do more preparation for this one, or was there a specific reason why the team felt ill-prepared for yesterday's?
I think to put it down to no preparation, I mean, we talked, I would say, in the same amount of regard with this match that we went into. I feel like we just weren't there mentally. It was as well when we went against Patapim in the group stage the first time when we got 3-0'd. It was more the energy wasn't there. And this time around, we definitely brought the energy. We took warm-up more seriously. And I think we were a lot more just prepared energy-wise going into the game. So, yeah.
Nice. I hope the energy is going to come back up for your matchup against VP. Thank you so much for joining us, Lugia.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Go and chill max with the team until the time comes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
That was the GOAT, Lugia,